Have you ever lost your voice? Maybe you talk so much that you got laryngitis, or you woke up one day and you can't speak. It's very frustrating, and you have to talk to people through writing stuff down or through texting them. And you want to express, you want to use words. This film is about a guy by the name of Jonah who has a serious anxiety disorder called selective mutism. Now, maybe you don't have selective mutism or someone in your group doesn't have that struggle, but we all have struggles when it comes to trying to express ourselves. And we have barriers that we all face on the path to finding our true voice. So what I would discuss right off the bat with the students in your group is what are some of the barriers they face when they're trying to find their own voice, trying to find their own calling and purpose in life. Another major theme in Speechless is trauma. And I know today there's a whole lot of talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and how we deal with traumatic and painful events in our life. Many times we cope in a positive way. Many times we don't cope in a positive way. We do things that are actually unhealthy and destructive. So I think I would want to look at and talk about in my group, what are some of the healthy ways and unhealthy ways we deal with trauma in our life? And then ask the question, as we look into the Bible, what are some stories in the Bible of men and women who went through traumatic events, and how did they handle it in their own life, and how did they handle it in their relationship with God? As we watch Speechless, we'll see many people who are just striving and yearning to help Jonah talk. His mom, his therapist, and of course his grandpa Chuck, and Morgan as well, the girl that he's trying to ask out. They're all just trying to help him, but he doesn't seem to want help. So that's going to be something I would want to discuss with my students would be, have you ever been in a situation like that where there's someone in your life, a friend or a family member that you want to help, but for some reason they don't want to receive that help? Why is it that sometimes in life people don't want to receive help? And what can you do about it? Is there any way to help in a situation when a person doesn't want help? Another theme of Speechless is the power of community. And so we see Jonah and his desire to talk, his desire to express himself. He wants to connect. He wants to connect with his grandpa. He wants to connect with Morgan. He wants to connect with his parents, but he finds it so difficult to do it. Finally, when he has breakthroughs with these people in his life, we see him making steps towards healing and finding his own voice. I would talk about in my group, why do we need community? And what are some of the ways that we can find community in our own life? And where does the church fit into community? How do we find those replenishing relationships and mentors and guides in our life that can help us find our own voice? One of the critical scenes in this film is when Jonah is challenged to dig deep. You remember they go to this war scene that's kind of like they're in Vietnam, and he's digging and digging and digging, and the voice is encouraging him, admonishing him, cheering him on. You've got to dig deep. So what are some of the ways you need to dig deep in your own life if you're going to find your own voice? And I would talk to the students about what does that involve? What does digging deep look like? Can you dig deep by yourself? Do you need to have others help you dig as well? Talk about that whole theme and what happens when we give ourselves permission to really dig down deep inside to find those steps we need to take that will bring healing and freedom in our life. In the Bible, there's a story about a guy by the name of Jonah who is running from God's call upon his life. As you know, he's swallowed by a big fish. Now, it's interesting that in the movie Speechless, the character's name, the main hero, if you would, is named Jonah. And I will talk to my students about the parallels. What are the similarities between the story of Jonah in the Bible and the story of this student, Jonah, who's trying to overcome this anxiety disorder? What are the similarities and what are the differences between the biblical Jonah and the student Jonah as they're trying to speak out and find their own voice? Throughout the film Speechless, we see the character Jonah taking small steps that will help him find his own voice, that will help him to express himself. Talk to your students about some small steps they need to take in order to find their own voice? Or perhaps what are some steps they've taken in the past, not only to find their own voice, but to push forward in their life, to find some freedom, to find some healing from different painful circumstances and challenges they've experienced. So that's one of the themes I'd want to explore with my students would be, what are some of those small steps that you need to take that will be like a giant leap for them? We've talked a lot in this discussion about finding your own voice. And a question that I think would be great to throw out to the students would be, what does that really mean? What does it mean to find your own voice? And I think one of the things it could mean is it means finding your purpose in life. And how many times when we are young, we have these dreams. Sometimes we can follow these dreams. Sometimes we have to put them on hold. But I think a lot about finding your own voice is finding your purpose in life. And it's also discovering how God has uniquely wired you. Or as one of the characters said, I think it's the grandpa that says, it's finding those true vivid colors that God has used to paint you and that he is using to create a masterpiece in your life. So those are some of the ideas I think that you can explore as you talk about the whole idea of finding your purpose and finding your voice. A great book I might recommend that you read as a leader, or at least look at the Cliff Notes or Spark Notes, would be Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. It's a story about how he survived Auschwitz and how he developed a whole system of therapy about how people desire to find their own voice and desire to find meaning in life. This film is about small steps that we need to take in order to find our own voice. Jonah took many small steps. And then at the end of the film, he finally goes over to Morgan's house and expresses his loss or how he will miss her when she's gone using words. And he speaks out loud. Talk about with your students, how will Jonah's life be different now? What do they think he will feel like? What do you think he will do now that he is able to use words? One of the major ways the makers of this film built tension was not having the character Jonah speak. And throughout, as you watch the film, at least this is the way I felt, there was this tension inside of me as you were wondering and waiting, when is he going to speak? And will he speak? And when he speaks, what will he say? And finally he does speak, and it's such a relief, it's such a powerful, emotive moment. And one of the things I might explore with the students here would be, what are some things or what's something in your life you feel like people are waiting for you to say? Or is there something in your life you feel like God is waiting for you to do? And we're all sitting on the edge. So that's one of the concepts and questions I might want to discuss with the students as we look at this film. We at Fable are here to help you. We want you to help your own students find their own voice. And so our prayer is that this film will be a vehicle, a tool that you can use in their life that will help them find a sense of purpose, face those challenges, and once again, find their own voice.